Hello, doctor. Good evening.
Good evening.
And to our viewers, a very good evening to you all. You have been joining us regularly for our Sehat Samvaad sessions. If you came for our Torchbearer Thursday, you know we kicked off with a doctor who came on our Torchbearer Thursday on the 6th of August. And after that, we had four topics on Sehat Samvaad. So we talked about mind-body connection, we talked about immunity and illness defense, if you remember. Then we took up family health, and after Diwali, we came back and we talked about diet and fads and diet fads. So, today, in our last episode, we are going to be asking Doctor questions around exercise. So, Doctor, tell us really about, we all know we have to exercise, but it's करते पण वळत नाही. We know we must do it, but when do we make time? How much is too much? At what is it only in the morning? uh, can I do it in the evening? How much should I also do weight training, or will I build up muscles? So there are lots of questions and doubts, but the starting point is, how do I make exercise a habit? Is also something that people ask. So I want you to again free flow like always, and let's deep dive into the topic, sir.
Yeah. So, first of all, let me clarify one thing that the purpose of life is to save energy and retain energy. So, though exercise, everyone knows that it is to develop fitness and to some extent to develop health, but it is against the basic tendency of life to store energy, because for exercise you have to spend energy. So, it is a natural tendency all over the world that to become lazy and to avoid exercise. So this is inherent to all of us. So we have to create something which will like motivate us to do exercises. So many times the fear motivation works for some time. If I want to avoid this, but positive motivations can work much better. So if you start exercising and you start enjoying something, then it becomes much easier to exercise. So, to form a habit of exercise, first thing is you must first explore which kind of exercise you really enjoy, and then you can begin the journey there. You can have multiple like kinds of exercises, like we like music of different genres. Similarly, you can have exercises of different kinds, but the primary thing is you should enjoy it. Then only you can form a habit.
No, that's very well said, because if you don't enjoy it and you're doing it as a punishment, you're not going to be motivated, and you may not stay the course of a
Yeah.
lifetime.
Secondly, there is the concept of exercise should be mindful, because it has been seen that when the trains were running properly, people who travel from say Bombay VT to Mantralay and back, they usually walk as a means of exercise, but they don't get that benefit when someone walks the same distance at a different time without any stress of reaching office, catching the muster, or catching the train back. So when you are exercising, your focus should be on exercise and mind should be free of stress. Then the exercise can be really helpful.
So, doctor, when I don't know if you won't obviously know this, but initially I used to say that, I go for a walk and feel very good about it, until it was pointed out to me that that may not be the most efficient way of using my time, and I would much rather utilize that time in a, by going to the gym, for instance. So, how does one, titrate or get the right appropriate exercise for, what is there something like the right exercise for a lifestyle or a person?
Yeah. Uh, I will request first of all to show the two slides that I have sent. If it is
Okay.
possible, then I will spend around 3 to 4 minutes on explaining this,
Uh-huh.
because that is very essential. In this figure, what I am showing is the above the horizontal line, that is
Mhm.
the healthy line. We always keep on gaining energy storing energy, and at the same time we use breaking that energy to gain energy. So it's a continuous balance between anabolism and catabolism. And as the age advances, we know that the babies grow. After a certain age, we stop growing, and then we start decreasing our stores. When in muscle, bone, or anything, at that time, even catabolism goes down, and we keep on reducing in our total mass. So this is what how the natural life cycle is, that anabolism and catabolism, fine balance between them is health. So any disease, disorder, stress, environmental threats will try to disturb the anabolism or catabolism. Why I'm saying anabolism, like what environment we are staying in is called as a obesogenic environment, where the food is plenty, the food flavors are plenty, and so we increase anabolism, which also causes a disease called obesity. While if there is an infection, then the body tries to fight that infection and uses too many resources, and we lose weight, we lose appetite. That is catabolism. So we have to have a fine balance between them. Everybody has to understand that. You ask me that how will you decide what exercises are appropriate or optimum for me. So for that we have to understand what challenges I am going to face in near future. Nobody can plan for a contingency in toto, because the over exercises can also cause problems. So the fitness is basically defined as capacity to adapt to anabolism and catabolism so that health is maintained. And exercises is a extra activity apart from daily activity, which promotes fitness without compromising health. So that is a definition of exercise. Now that's why if I am a, say, a doctor, I'm going to be sitting in my clinic and in the house, then my exercise schedule should be directed towards maintaining my blood vessels without getting clogged. So that should be my aim of exercise. Now if I am a postman and I have to walk too much, then my exercise schedule should be, I will be walking so much, or walking exercise in such a fashion that my strength is not deteriorated. So for a postman, maintaining good quadriceps, hamstring, and calf muscle strength is an optimum exercise, because this is called as a functional exercise. That what activities you are going to do in daily life, which you are going to do for lifetime, and you should be prepared for a small contingencies in them. Sports, or the various kinds of sports, it is said that uh, when we were gatherers and hunters, that time we had a lot of skills of climbing and jumping and swimming, and not to lose that, we are maintaining or we develop sports. But that is a wrong idea, because that that kind of activities were commensurate with the environment that they were facing. And if you look at the environmental changes, there is a time in the history where there was industrialization, crowding, and that's where the infections were the most prominent things. The engineering has helped us to spread away and still remain in a group. Now this COVID time is basically showing that man always wants to be in the group, but having a personal space, so that the contact is minimum but the emotional contact is maximum. So the engineering has really helped in maintaining our longevity or increasing our longevity, but we are not going to change that anabolism and catabolism cycle. So if anybody wants to maintain fitness and start running marathon, it's disastrous. So everybody has to first find out what he's going to do in life and prepare for that. So tomorrow, if you are going to go into a military, which is a job requirement, you are going to pay a price for that. That you have to maintain a supreme level of fitness, for which you do exercises, but that life is always short lasting. Usually, these commandos or anyone, they retire in 15 years, 10 years. So they cannot maintain that kind of activity later. So your question, answer in a nutshell is, you have to first find out who you are, what you are going to do, and then plan exercises accordingly.
So, in Seema Agashe is asking, because I think you mentioned postman, she's also curious to know for a teaching profession, is there something specific?
Yeah. So for a teaching profession, I understand that a teacher has to stand and say 6 hours, 8 hours of standing without much movement. Now here, what challenges you are going to face is varicose veins,
Uh,
edema in the feet. So the exercises that you need to do is basically continuous twitching movements of your muscles so that the blood is thrown up. If you remember the old policemen when they were used blue kind of a worthy, they had calf bands which prevented from developing varicose veins. So for a teacher, that is one thing. Secondly, for teacher, it's teacher can be compared to a tennis player. A continuous one arm movement, this will always affect the shoulder joint. So the teacher should be doing exercises to strengthen their shoulder muscles. And thirdly, if the posture is wrong, then you can have always a lumbar spondylosis and abdominal laxity. So, back strengthening, shoulder strengthening exercises with use of mechanical aids, that will be an optimum form of exercise for a teacher who is standing and doing her work.
Thanks, Seema, for that question. I think all of us have benefited with that from that input. So, we running has become, Doctor, so popular in the last few years, and people have glorified. There's a lot of senior citizens, for instance, who are celebrities who run. There's a lot of training. There's a lot of diet, physiotherapy, etc. involved around it. What is your view again in this whole context of the anabolism, catabolism that you talked about, the optimal exercise? The science and being able to train well. So I'm sure there are people who are training well, and there are a lot of people who are doing it, but not necessarily with all the background information that's required. Any
See,
guidance?
yeah, again, the marathon running is very unnatural. You will never face that situation where you have to run 42 kilometers. Imagine any time you have to run 42 kilometers. What we are going to prove by that? That you can run 42 kilometers. If you look at the history, basically it has come from Greek and Roman. That Athens to Sparta, Sparta to marathon, and then there are two people who are labeled with that. Both of them have the end of the story is that they died like crying Nike. That is, we have won or be happy. So the marathon usually results into that kind of a the end. It may not be death, but definitely if you increase the catabolism to a great level, whatever as your age advances, you cannot maintain that kind of anabolic process of repair. And that's why it has been proved in many studies that long distance runners can die early. Even the athletes, they are supposed to be very healthy, they die early. They may die fit, but they die early. So the health is not meant for a very long time. They can get cancers, they can get cardiovascular diseases, sudden cardiac deaths, gallbladder problems, liver problems are very common in these. So I will never advise anyone to go for a marathon as a hobby or a sport, because there is a statistics that every 100 hours you run, you get one major injury, and that injuries usually occur in such a fashion that they manifest 10 years later. So you will find many marathon runners who have got ankle problems, who have got back problems. So I don't know. It all started with that Standard Charter marathon in our country, and it has picked up very, very well. People are running, doing something for that. But who actually run marathon? I know people who are getting addicted to running, because all these extreme exercises can give a dopamine secretion, and which makes you feel very high. I know one very good doctor who had fractured her leg, and she had to run that ultra marathon in Bangalore, that is 100 kilometers in 11 hours. So she put in all the efforts and she ran that 100 kilometers, came back and again had this problem, and now she's fine. But at what cost? How much damage she has done to her joints? So everybody has to think whether you really need that kind of a fitness. I can give an example that everybody requires money, but to get that money, how much money you want and what price you are going to pay to acquire that money. Same thing happens about your health also. So the exercises that are done today are extreme exercises and we don't need that.
There's also this thing about regularity, doctor, and exercise. How being able to do this every day, or there are also perceptions about time of day. I should do them in the morning. So, are there certain uh, tips for all of us who try to lead, busy lives? How do we get this in every day or a reasonable number of
Yeah.
hours? Or
So there is a big study called as a McMaster study, which is done in I think Canada, and they have shown that even if you do 2.5 minutes of high intensity training interspersed with 2 minutes gap, 30 seconds each, 5 times, interspersed with 2 minutes gap, 3 days a week, that is more than sufficient. So it comes to around 7 minutes or 8 minutes a week. That is 30 minutes per month. That activity is enough, provided you can reach your high intensity levels. So for all youngsters who are very busy into like work from home or they are on IT or any kind of a job they are on, these exercises can be done anywhere. They can be done without any instruments. You just require to push your heart rate up, and that will be sufficient to maintain good health. It may not give you fitness to run marathon. It may not give you strength to have 100 pull-ups, but it will definitely improve your health, organ health, cardiovascular health. So that much exercise is sufficient. That is the lowest margin. Now people who cannot reach that kind of a intensity, like for people who have diabetes, people who have got hypertension, then for them it is recommended that you have to have 30 minutes of activity at your 70% of maximum heart rate 5 days a week. So again, 210 minutes of activity is sufficient. And there is a funny part of it that nowadays they are saying sitting is smoking. So continuous sitting 8 to 10 hours a day is like smoking a pack of cigarette per day. So it increases chances of cardiovascular disease in the same manner as if you are smoking one pack a day. So we have to get up, stand, and move.
I think that's a scary thought. Sitting is the new smoking.
Yeah,
Good. Also, what is the right age that kids should be taught the need to, or made to enjoy exercise? Like you rightly said, when you started, it's about doing an activity that you like to do. So, are there some clues there?
yeah. So this is all backed by scientific evidence that children who grow up in the families where the parents are exercising, parents have the habit of exercising, then children usually start to, what you can say, accompany them, and that's the most like enjoyable part for that kid. So if you do that, then the child really develops a liking for exercise. So that is the first part. After say 3 to 4 years of age, when the child really can start run, they have got so much energy. So there is a competition between a father or a mother and the child, and they get the sense of winning in that competition, and they start enjoying it really, because that is where the that is a very good beginning for them. Then as you grow, then the question of time management comes. Now, in terms of time management, then we divide the exercises into different parts like endurance, stamina, strength, flexibility, posture, balance, coordination. So, depending on the age, these factors are taken into account to plan exercises. And as you grow older, we don't require much of exercises in strength training, stamina, but we require a lot of exercises in terms of balance, coordination, and posture, because it has been shown that when the, say, senior citizens fall,
Yeah.
then they get a lot of fractures, hip fractures, and that is the most serious thing that happens. Usually we find a fit senior citizen, when gets a fall, it's very difficult to bring him out. And they have shown that the fractures that occur is not because of the bone fragility, it's not because of the osteopenia or osteoporosis, but because their muscles are so stiff,
Hmm.
they are not flexible, so they try to maintain balance suddenly, and the muscle pull is so much that with that impact it just snaps, and that fractures the bone more than the impact of falling.
Oh, I see.
So that's why for elderly people, the balance, coordination, and posture, these are the most common exercises that they need to do. It doesn't spend much energy, but it requires a good kind of exercise for them. And the simplest exercise for a senior citizen is that is basically in Western countries, that if you stand on the leg and can put on a shoe,
Okay.
that is a great balancing act.
So you talked about aims. So it is almost like an aim of exercise. So whether
Yeah.
it's about stamina, endurance, strength, flexibility, balance, posture, and coordination, and doing a combination of these in balance, in some regularity is what is required,
Yeah,
right?
I forgot to mention about regularity.
Uh,
So, regularity in exercise can really play a great role, because uh, we have all we all have the rhythms in the body. Different
mm,
hormones, different neurochemicals have got rhythms. So, doing exercises at odd times, it may not be, you may not get time in the morning. You may get exercise in the time in the evening time or night time. So anytime, but if you plan the exercises, plan how they can be incremental, and do it regularly, that gives a lot of benefits, because body is already ready with the metabolic processes. At that time, once you start regularly, that is the time when your muscles also relax, your ligaments are tightened up, and you are being ready at that time. Like we see this in food. When you regularly eat food at 12:30, even if you have eaten food in the morning, you start feeling hungry by 12 o'clock, because it is nature has created a rhythm. So regularity is most important. And in, say, one generation prior to me, my parents or like your parents, you will find they are extremely regular. They are not vigorous in exercises, they are not vigorous in something, but they are very regular, and that is the secret of their longevity.
So from a because we also thought we should take this topic, doctor, because it's also planning for the year to come, because we've
Yeah.
gone through a lot. We've had a very unusual year, and many of us are still sort of struggling with immunity issues, setbacks. We've not had a regular normal year. How does one optimally use one's time in these days and create this sort of a rhythm?
Yeah.
And are there any tips, things that we should start doing now
Yeah.
and get into that habit for 2021?
Yeah. So the best tips for 2021, it's first of all, you start noting down when your body is more flexible, morning or evening. Usually there are some people who are very stiff in the morning, so they can use the aerobic kind of exercise, that is walking, cycling, treadmill, or whatever it is in the morning time, so that the muscles slowly become warmed up, and the flexibility exercises can done in the evening. So that is one thing. Secondly, start with like being ready to go for exercises because it becomes very overwhelming. So when you sleep in the night, keep your shoes, socks, everything ready, and decide. Forget about how much time, what exercises you are going to do. Just wear your shoes and get out of the house. Once you do that, your exercise happens. Because the biggest problem is getting out of the house. So one like what you can say resolution that every day I will get out of the house. The exercise will happen because if one can get that barrier out, so get up and get out of the house. That is the first thing. Then you can plan your exercises depending on your liking. But again, I would say if you're planning strength training, like for somebody who is at say at 22 or 25 and they want to have good toned muscles, then they need to do strength training. So how whether you want to really have that muscle mass and cuts in the muscles and show your muscles, flaunt your muscles, then the exercises are different. If you want to maintain good tone in the muscles so that once you are wearing a full sleeve shirt and say trousers and you look extremely sculpt, that is a different exercise. Then if you want to have a say a good high, then you can have a heart rate monitored exercise. Similarly for flexibility, for flexibility it is like whether you are doing yoga or pilates or any kind of combinations, the flexibility exercises have to be learned properly. For example, I can tell you one thing. Usually people have, because of the sedentary habit, the hamstrings, that is the back muscles of the thighs are tight. Now people start bending forward. Now they start bending forward, they lie down and lift their legs up and stretch them. That will stretch only the lower part of the muscle. But what is ideally taught is once you bend, then you extend your upper back. That will like stretch your muscle part which goes from spine to the femur or the thigh, and that will give you maximum benefits. Similarly, while doing flexibility exercises, once you say stretch your muscles, then try to contract it a bit in the same position. That will give release a lot of tension in the tendons. So it's not only muscles. So these exercises have to be planned. And I have seen today generation, if they know what they are doing, they enjoy doing it. Previous generation, oh, it was like something like Guru ने बोला है तो वो करने का है. So they have got that kind of a faith. So they used to get their own benefits. Today's generation always wants to know why they are doing it, and once they have got insights, they do it. So I would suggest that whatever exercises you are planning, first plan in your mind, then plan in on the paper, and then start doing it. And the best slogan is start low and go slow and be regular.
So, what about games and sports? So, I know people who are, whether they're playing badminton or they're playing, or they're going for a swim or playing football. How does that work?
See, there are two kinds of sports. One is a recreational sport and one is a competitive sport. So for recreational sport, it's an excellent thing because there you are not competing with anyone. You develop your skill slowly and you start enjoying it. While if you are going into a competitive sports where a lot of like tournaments and going, and so it creates a lot of stress. It gives a lot of benefits also, but at that time you have to have a extraordinary kind of a fitness to reach some level. So I will suggest that everybody should join some sport. Even for children, they should be exploring different sports. If they are really talented, they can go into a competitive sport. But otherwise, they should be playing multiple sports. And but recreational sport is the really good thing. And in that also, I will again say that the we have lost capacity to stand on our hands. So most of the sports that we play nowadays are basically standing on legs or using legs too much. But the hands, and look at the monkeys. Monkeys can balance their weight on hands and on feet like equally. So that is what really gives fitness. So if you can do a handstand, do pull-ups, or use your shoulders like your hips, then that is the best kind of a fitness, and it can be started in childhood because that time so that's why in USA every school has to have two things. One is a basketball field and one is a gymnasium, and this is all over in Western countries. That's why you will find footballers who can easily do the double somersault on the astroturf, so they can easily jump and land on their legs again. So so these things are to be kept in mind, that what what you are doing exactly, explore everything and go into a recreational sport, find a talent, go for a competitive sport, but don't begin a sport with competition in mind.
You had talked about high intensity levels. So how does a lay person discover that? How much is high intensity?
Yeah,
What should I be feeling? What should I be tracking? What should I be listening to?
see, it has become so easy now. We have got starting from Apple Watch to fast track watches which can measure your pulse rate. So pulse rate is the easiest thing to track down. Like, the formula is very simple: 220 minus age is your maximum heart rate. So as the age advances, your maximum heart rate goes down. So your high intensity is when you are nearing that pulse rate. So suppose I start working today or I start walking today and I start walking at the speed of say 5 kilometers per hour, my pulse rate may reach 160. As I develop fitness, I will require to walk at 6 kilometers, 7 kilometers per hour. That is the speed where I will reach that kind of a thing. So what intensity you are doing can be easily measured nowadays. That we are very lucky for that. So that is one kind of. So that is high intensity training. That is basically aerobic training. And as I said, with that you can develop good amount of aerobic fitness and health. Then you require flexibility. So some point has to be spent in flexibility. And I don't know how much time we have, but I have to mention one clear thing, that 7 hours sleep has been found to be the best timing for sleeping. So 7 hours. Initially it was at 5 hours, then 8 hours. Now they have zeroed it on 7 hours. And once a week fasting has been proved to be correcting the DNA defects. So the old dictum of either doing some Mondays or Fridays or linked to some god, but fasting and not with sabudana and that sweet potatoes, but real fasting for around 16 to 18 hours once a week can really give your body a chance to repair yourself. So that's why all the uh, culture has come into that. You have food before 7 o'clock, and next day morning, if you are going to get up at 7 o'clock, then you get around 12 to 14 hours, and then one day you don't eat till afternoon. You get that time to repair yourself. So sleep can recover, restore, but if you want to repair, you have to have that kind of a sleep, that kind of a fasting, and that can be achieved in shorter times when you do real meditation, where you go into that state where your catabolism and anabolism go down so much that the DNA repair starts. And that's where the things happen. One is called as a neuroplasticity, that you develop new brain tracks and you repair your DNA. So that's why that has become very important now, that along with exercises, meditation is a part and parcel of healthy living.
So when you say repair your DNA, we have another 10 minutes to go. Will you, for our viewers' sake, explain this a little bit? What does repair DNA mean, and how does
Yeah.
exercise help?
See, whenever something happens in the body, So basically, we can zero in on developing different kind of a molecules from food. Say for take example of proteins. So we eat say soybean, we eat milk or curd, or we eat chicken. They have got a different sequence of amino acids. When it goes inside our body, they are in the form of a separate amino acids. Now, when body wants to make a protein, a part of a DNA is opened up. Then it is copied. Then it goes outside, goes into the cell, and don't exactly replica of that is made. So that is how proteins are made. So at that time, the DNA is exposed and it has to close again. Similarly, when the cells divide, the whole DNA has to get separated, made a copy, and then again cross-linked. So during this process, imagine that trillions of things are happening, and what is the statistical chance of having a mistake? So usually the DNA, when they are crossing over, there can be some pieces missing, some pieces go extra. Now that is also recognized by the body. But if the body energies or that prana shakti is used for your anabolism and catabolism, where they are not at the minimum level, body stores those genes in the same fashion. And the changes are so small, they are not expressed drastically. But imagine this process going on for years. Then you can start developing some diseases which are permitted by the genes, because now it is not functioning to its optimum.
I see.
So nature has designed a way that is called as autophagy, that you can have scavenging activity for such DNA and repair it, or destroy the DNAs, and then this material is taken up. But for which you have to have a free time. You have to give rest to your anabolism and catabolism. And usually, whenever the DNAs replicate, nature has made into a very clever trick that every time there is a small part of a gene is broken off. So, say a, a point. So, number of repetitions that happens, or number of replications that happen, after that, that same set of genes cannot replicate because it reaches a stop codon. And then the cell dies. That is a natural cycle. Now, sometimes in this process, if the stop codon is deleted from one gene or one chromosome, then it will keep on replicating. That is like immortality. But that immortality is named as cancer, because it doesn't know when to stop replicating, when to stop growing. So this can all happen if you don't give time for that DNA to repair.
So autophagy is this 16 hours when I don't
18 hours fast.
fast once a week,
Yeah.
which allows these to get cleaned.
Because it's basically it is said that from 16 hours to 18 hours, this is a golden window. So after 18 to 20 hours, if you continue that fast, then the acidosis begins. Then again that your catabolism is more. So that is the time. It is like going to a beach and relaxing. But you can relax on a beach chair when the sun is not really up in the sky. So if you stay there, say morning at 7 o'clock, you can really enjoy. But moment it becomes 10, 11, 12, then again you will start feeling the heat. So we have to control that metabolism to its lowest level. And that's why the lowest metabolism, like tortoise, it's said that the metabolism is so slow that it can live up to 100 and 200, 300 years. So that is the trick of that is discovered by yogis, that you reduce your metabolism. That is called as samadhi. That prolonged period of time you can maintain that metabolism without causing acidosis. So that is DNA repair.
So, Doctor, we've spoken in these 5 episodes. We've got the last 5 minutes left. And today we were going to really wrap up, getting people to think about exercise as well as some kind of a practice of making fitness a habit. logging. So
Yeah,
keeping a health diary is a good idea, right?
fantastic idea.
Logging
In
weight.
fact, I can remember one thing that it is always said that India had a great culture. We had a lot of discoveries. We had a lot of science evolved. But the difference between Western and Indian culture was, in Indian culture, it was called as a maukik. So it was given from one person to other person, but never recorded on paper. Not that they didn't have a means of writing. May not be paper, but that Guruja Patra and all those things. So we have written material, but all these knowledge was always maukik knowledge. So we never had a experience transferred to next generation.
Hmm.
While in Western countries, you will find fantastic record maintaining. So they can go back and see what has happened. So that art we need to adopt from Western culture. So that is the best thing in Western culture. That planning and recording basically on paper. So not that everybody who writes down will do it, but at least they know what they are doing is towards what they have written. So journaling is the best, and there are so many apps on the Play Store or App Store. But simple diary, writing down food diary and writing down exercise or health diary is really important.
Also doing things as a family, doing things as a community also has its own benefits, and I think
Yeah.
that's again something you've talked about and you've made very popular through your own medical practice, doctor.
See, uh, if you remember, say 20, 30 years back, there was a concept called a Vamshala. So there are all levels of, say, fitness levels were seen there. But the main idea was going there in a community and practicing something as a ritual. And then everyone was taught something in common and something which is special for that person. But going there was like a enjoyable thing, because you mix with your friends, peers, something different from that happens in school. And nowadays also, if you find, there are a lot of say weight loss programs are there, and they sell a lot of nutritional products at exorbitant prices. But the secret is that they have got their studios. So people gather there, do good exercises, have fun, and then have a drink. You don't feel hungry. So basically, it's like going to a seven-star hotel. The food is not different, but you are paying for the ambience. You are paying for the service. So same thing, but that you need not pay so much. You can form your own groups and then start doing something.
So for the all of you who are going to who've been watching and those who are going to watch this episode later, I want you all to actually make the time to go and take a look at even the earlier episodes that Doctor did through the Samvaad series. The whole logic on why we called it Samvaad was, how does the doctor mediate between the patient and the patient's illness? And it was really through this dialogue or this intermediation, the mediation is what we wanted to put forth as a concept through all of our sessions. Here again, Doctor has helped us mediate between us and our monkey mind, which wants us to sleep a little longer in bed, which wants to say, I will exercise tomorrow, or has given us some very useful uh, reasons, logic, as well as simple practices on what we can do to make and incorporate exercise in our everyday schedule. Doctor, I think I've had so much fun talking to you each fortnight over the last couple of weeks. All of us are enriched, and I'm happy that we've got not just this content, but a lot of content that's there available on your YouTube channel as well, Wisdom Samvad, that people will have access to. So thank you very much and wish you lots of good health, and may you make the time to keep that log for exercise as well as for diet. Thank you so much. Just write us in, write to Dr. Patankar, and reach out anytime for more questions or comments and his wisdom. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah.